Maddie to the mat.
Yeah. Yep.
Now. I don't want to call us out, but did we do a CP time today? Did we come in on CP?
We definitely did. Good Lord. Good Lord.
It's like that sometimes. It's gonna be all right. I think you halfway there on that. There you go. Come back right there. Yeah, we was over here trying to do some tweaking, just a little bit, trying to give you the best that we had with some new lighting that Matt's trying to fine tune. I think we can hold it right there, Matt. We're gonna have to say
But every
no.
time I move, it comes in.
Oh, come on, act right. Maybe it is the colors. I'm not sure.
You
Let
know
me
what?
just say first of all, how y'all doing? Why Matt is
Yeah.
fine tuning. How
Yeah. Let me
y'all
fine
doing?
tune this, man.
How
Let me
y'all
fine tune it.
doing?
Fine tune it. Hold
It's
on.
okay. It first of all, we are back again. Welcome to Conversations with Uncle T. My apologies that my co-host has some new equipment that we are still trying to get together. It's one of those situations where everything is great till you go live, and all of a sudden now they want to try to act up on us. But we're gonna keep the ball moving. Definitely glad to be back on air with you guys. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be some good stuff. Hoping that the conversation is relevant. I thought here we are in the month of February. I think it would be somewhat appropriate that we continue to celebrate Black History Month by looking at things that are specifically geared towards our community. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about was generational wealth as it pertains to how we as a culture pass wealth down to the next generations behind us. I want to make it plain also that wealth is not just about money. Wealth can be knowledge as well as money, as well as teachings that can go on to produce far beyond money and monetary things, but they are things that we, by design, put down into the generations behind us to make sure that we're leaving legacy. And I think everybody ultimately wants our children to do better than what we did. And so that's really a part of it. When you hear the word generational wealth, it does pertain to things beyond just money. So I want to make that plain. But outside of that, I want to just check in on everybody, see how everybody is doing. We are into the 2025. I mean, this thing is on and popping. We already done burned a month, and things are about to get real for us here as we roll through February, and before you know it, y'all, it'll be June, July. We'll be talking about summer vacation. So who knows? It's one of them things that just moves very fast. Poor Matt. You gonna get it together, bro. You gonna get it together. Y'all gonna have to extend your hand to Matt's setup tonight to make sure he don't do something over there too. I want to say that first of all, I hope everybody is doing well with the weather. The weather situation in the past month has been, I think, beyond anything that we've seen around the country as far as just weather patterns that we've never seen before. We were down here literally with snow less than a month ago, and then 80 something degrees here just the other day in Atlanta. So we are experiencing some of the craziness along with everybody else in terms of what in the world is really happening. So hopefully you guys are handling that and doing well, not necessarily taking too much of a hit as far as the weather is concerned, but we are right here with you in dealing with weather that you wake up and you just don't know what to expect. So hopefully everybody is safe. There's quite a bit of weather still coming in for some folks. I don't think we have anything major happening right away, but definitely something that it ain't over till it's over. So you don't need thinking that we might not still catch some weather before the season in and of itself is up. But things have calmed down here in Atlanta for now. We're enjoying the 70s, but I think we'll probably see another little dip before it's all over as well. But some of y'all really catching it, so I'm hoping that things are good for you to the point to where you're not just in a situation, because we all know that the Northeast still gets their fair share of some crazy weather, and I don't think any of that has stopped at this point. Matt, how we doing over there, man? We slowly coming together. What we got? You sound good. No, now you. Come on now. Double check your mic, man. We got no audio. Oh, cause you're muted this time. Now you're muted, Matt. Check your mute.
Yeah, I got my wife adjusting
Yeah,
these the light.
lights. Okay.
No,
Check your fader still too. A
mm-hmm.
lot of that's gonna be in your fader.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be a combination of those.
Well,
Welcome
listening
to the
audience,
show.
I apologize.
Yeah.
My fault here.
It's all good. We're gonna get it together. Like I said, I appreciate you having done some alignment prior to only come into this thing live and have to deal with some stuff in my
Point it
life.
up.
Um, but we're gonna keep the ball moving. So let's talk about something that I thought was a very good topic as we look at again celebrating Black History Month. Um, First of all, what an honor to
Yeah.
have a month in
Do
which
the other.
we can dedicate to really just celebrating our uniqueness as a culture and the amazing contributions that we've brought to this country. Tonight, we're going to touch on a particular area, but I think throughout the month, I'm going to make sure that we celebrate by bringing some historical facts into the fold as well, and recognizing accomplishments, achievements, people, things that have made the Black experience in America what it is. Um, One of the things that I really was interested in after looking at some statistics a while back was, how do you make a culture better? How do you ensure that the culture um, downline has the absolute best there is to offer? And what are some of the things that you can do, that you control in your current situation, that will help propel that? And one of the things that I looked at were some stats that spoke to wealth as it pertains to money
Mm-hmm.
in America, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was startling as we looked at some of these stats to see where we as a race of people were ranking. It was actually a little disturbing when you
Mm-hmm.
think about it. But more importantly, I wanted to bring it to the forefront to make sure that we were all aware of how we are ranking from a stack rank perspective as we talk about wealth generation in America. Let me just say this: as African Americans, we generate and spend somewhere in the area of 1.2 to 1.5 trillion dollars a year. I don't know if many of us know that. And the downside of that is we
Mm-hmm.
are predominantly consumers, Matt,
Yeah.
meaning we don't make anything, we don't sell anything,
Mm-hmm.
and that 1.2 to 5 trillion doesn't recirculate into our community. And so, because of that, we are just that, consumers.
Yeah.
We buy stuff.
Yeah.
So, when you pause and think about that, it's hard to have wealth out of the monetary gains that we bring into our community if
Mm-hmm.
nothing stays. You know what I'm saying? If every dime we get, we spend, and in most cases, we spend on things that are more than likely liabilities and not assets. So I wanted to bring attention to that because celebrating Black History Month, I'm a firm believer that when you know better, you do better. And hopefully, we have an opportunity to bring to the attention of many that this is an area that we might want to take a second look at. There are definitely, I think, things that we can do in our own backyards that if we knew this, we might be able to proactively change it. Um, Matt and I had a quick discussion the other day about another facet or aspect of this. And Matt, you are on mute in the event you don't know. There
Hmm.
you go.
Hmm.
Another aspect of this has to do with, believe it or not, marriage. Now, as a marriage counselor, right down Matt's wheel, um, I thought it was a good one to really discuss because part of the lack of wealth within our community is tied, believe it or not, to marriage. The
Absolutely.
lack of, right?
Absolutely.
So Matt, how important is marriage within a group of people for ensuring the survival and the come up, if you will, of
Hmm.
people, to
Hmm.
the best of your knowledge and teachings that you've done through marriage counseling? Is that a
So
big deal?
it is a big deal. I can tell you this. You don't want to coach people to get married for economic reasons.
Right.
But marriage does help a family economically, especially in today's world where our parents and grandparents, the mom stayed at home, the woman stayed at home, and the husband worked. But
Right.
now it even TC, you almost had a traditional where your wife was at home and you
Sure.
work. But it almost takes now two incomes
Mm-hmm.
in the house. When we talked about where we stand as African Americans when it comes to the what's the word I want to use, the household income, I think Indians were number one, and I think their average household income was over $100,000.
Yeah.
Then it was Asians. They were right around 90,000, I believe, and then it was Caucasians, and then us.
Yeah.
$54,000.
Yeah.
What family can survive on $54,000 nowadays? So I think what marriage does help the family economically because there's more money coming into the house, especially when it's a two-parent house. But that's what
Yeah.
I believe about marriage. Marriage helps the family from an economic standpoint when there's two people that are working.
Yeah.
If I'm explaining that correctly.
Yeah, and I think that goes, there's a couple of pieces to that. So not only is it necessarily about two parents working, it is also the ability, even if it is a household where it is agreed that one parent works, the fact that there is still a parent left in the house, that I'm not having to pay child care and
Yeah.
things of that nature,
Right.
we
Right.
have now once again brought more power financially
Mm-hmm.
into the household
Mm-hmm.
versus being a single parent environment where you've got dollars going out and to even go to work.
Yeah.
And it's one of those situations of where we really don't push the button because a lot of this is a way of life. I mean, I hear it
Yep.
all the time. I just
Yeah.
I just want some kids. I don't want to get married, or I'm not looking for a husband. I just want kids one day,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's your choice. But when we begin to look at the overall value to a structure of people,
Mm-hmm.
as you just mentioned, are ranking dead last in the ability to pass generational wealth. And one of the main factors that play into it is the economic power that we have when raising a family. Much of our families are raised with single households.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I almost why in the African American community, and I can only speak for African American when it comes to this particular subject here. why are we so comfortable with having children and not marrying?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Why are we so
And
comfortable
it's
with
a
that?
it's very popular, and some of it I believe is generationally passed on. If you come from a single family household, it's what you've seen, and therefore it becomes your norm. And that, I think, allows people to take that, because let me tell you, doing it with two parents
Yeah,
is tough.
yeah, it is.
You know what I'm saying?
It is.
I don't wish single parenthood on anyone.
Anyone.
Anyone. I mean, unless you just got money in the bank like that, you got some nannies to help you out and all of that kind of world. Raising kids, as far as I'm concerned, you need an army. As they say, take a village. You do. You need an army, because even with two
Yep.
people, y'all be tired.
It's tough.
You tired. You tired all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and that ain't a black or a white thing. That's just raising children. You just tired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it is something that I think deserves some of our attention, in the fact that when we think about how often that happens in the black community
Mm-hmm.
versus our counterparts. That's all I'm saying. And this still boils down to your choice. But it happens far more often in our community. And then the downline piece of that is the lack of economic power, the lack of opportunities that we can provide our children, due to the fact that the struggle is so much more difficult. And when we begin to then align that to other races, we find we are literally dead last in building economical wealth. And that is one of the major factors as to why. Because in that single family household, it makes it super difficult to not only take care of the children, but to, on top of that, build wealth that I can pass down.
I think the gentleman. I wish we could play that video, TC, for the listening audience. I don't know
The
if we
one that I
have.
pulled,
Yeah, I don't know if we have the capability of showing that,
yes,
because he said that 50 years ago,
yeah,
over 70 to 80% of African American people were married.
yes,
Now only 34%
yeah,
is are married. He
yeah. I've
said
got the numbers.
he's I think he said that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he said that, was it like 34% of all African American men would never be married? Is that what he said?
Yes,
And
yes.
60 some percent of all African American women
Women,
would never be married.
yeah,
But here, listen to this though. That's not saying that they won't have children.
sure. It was
That's
stripping
just
out
saying that
that.
they're not going to be married.
That's correct. That's correct.
Which goes back to what you just said earlier, that we're having children but we're not being married, which creates a what's the word I'm looking for? It hurts us. It hurts the family from an economic standpoint.
Yeah,
Let me speak for the home that I was raised in.
right.
My mom had 4 kids, was never married,
Hmm.
and so she had to take care of 4 kids by herself,
Yeah,
and that was a struggle.
yeah.
But I believe that had my mom married,
Hmm.
I believe that there's a possibility that Matthew wouldn't have been raised in the housing projects.
I believe that you're probably right.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, we don't get to pick and choose, but it still becomes a fact of the matter.
yeah,
And out of those homes, and again, we're not here to knock how
right,
you've been raised, because
right.
out of those homes, because of those situations, we have produced amazing
Great
people,
people.
amazing people
Yes,
who have
yes.
just overthrown adversity and just done amazing things,
Resilient.
and without that upbringing would not have been the people that they were. So we get all that. But when we start just running the numbers as a whole, it is factual data that still says a two household family is better than one. Now, it is what it is, and there's a lot to unwind in that as a whole. But more importantly, when we think about passing generational wealth. Here's the thing about generational wealth. It's the whole setup. It's the fact that when you step out into your adulthood, that there is already a house given to you. There's already funds willed to you. Instead of you having to do a GoFund to bury somebody, you're sitting in a room with a lawyer to find out how much they left you. That is a very different scenario when you are afforded that. And again, that's not a black thing. That's just a anyone who sets their next generation up for generational wealth. But once again, we, because of our situations, and there are reasons still behind a lot of why we do what we do, but in our current situation, not necessarily putting thought into that maybe as we should, we find ourselves continuing to be the last in terms of an order of cultures to be able to afford that. And it's something that I think if we maybe put more thought into, could begin to think about ways of curtailing that. And again, I'm not saying everybody needs to be married. I'm saying that there's some value there. And more importantly, even if you're a single household, the fact that we need to be thinking about generational wealth to give our children a head start is something that we should be doing. I
You know
think
what?
everybody wants their kids to do better than they did.
There is a book by a guy named Ralph Richard Banks, and it's called "Is Marriage for White People? How the African American marriage decline affects everyone." And here's what this gentleman says, just a little bit of it. He says, during the past half century, African Americans have become the most unmarried people in our nation. I want to say that I don't want to sound like a preacher, but I believe that repetition is the key to learning. So I want to say that again. During the past half century, African Americans have become the most unmarried people in our nation. More than 2 out of every 3 black women are unmarried, and they are more than twice as likely as white women never to marry. The racial gap in marriage extends beyond poor. Doesn't have to do anything with being poor. It extends beyond that. Affluent and college educated African Americans are also less likely to marry or stay married than their white counterparts. That harms black children and adults and imperils the growth and stability of the black middle class. One reason that marriage has declined is that as black women have advanced economically and educationally, black men have fallen behind.
Yeah.
Nearly twice as many black women as black men graduate from college each year. Thus, not only are many college educated black women unmarried, they are more likely than any other group of women to marry less educated and lower earning men. Half of college educated black wives are more educated than their husbands.
Yeah. And you can already begin to understand some of the divisiveness that happens with that, right?
Yes.
Especially when you've got men who might have an inferiority complex towards that. Not to mention educated black women who may be looking for a counterpart that is more on their level
Yep. Yep.
than the availability of the current pool of black men that are out there. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those things come into play when we look at how do we end up dead last in this overall ability to create generational wealth and empower the generations behind us. But there are multiple things that can be done there. First and foremost, like anything, you gotta understand and know that it is existing.
Right.
Secondly, you gotta care that it exists.
Right.
We out here
Right.
spitting knowledge tonight. There's some
Mm-hmm.
people that don't care. Simple as
Wow.
that.
That's crazy.
You understand what I'm saying? I know plenty of brothers that are just fine having 4 babies by 4 babies mamas and show up and all they worried about is I'm a great dad. Ain't married nobody, ain't talked about marriage, and the same thing with females. They just fine having 3, 4 babies with 3, 4 baby daddy. Hey, I'm,
It's
I'm
crazy, man.
just stating facts now. And so if that is the life you choose, that's the life you choose. But what we're talking about is something bigger than you. something bigger than any one of us, and that is the collective body of us. Because when we get that together and we as a collective body rise, we all rise. It's happened in all the other cultures. The Indian, and we're talking East Indian, y'all, not Native Americans, they're an organization, or they're an organization, they're a group of people specifically who, as we talked about, ranked number one in the area of actual economical wealth in our country. 94% marriage rate, 104,000 median income. One thing you will find, and I have friends of this nationality, these people stick together. If
Wow.
you see one, you're going to see everybody. You're going to see mom and dad in tow because they believe in taking care of the generation in front of them. There's still this deep, affectionate respect for elders. There's a family structure there that keeps all of that going from the elders down to the children, and they're on to something. And all I'm saying is maybe we study something that looks right because
Oh,
we really
wow.
got it. And in each of our other counterparts, what we find is there's this nucleus about marriage and connectivity within the family unit that ultimately plays into the betterment of the children, the betterment from an economic perspective, better education,
Cation, yeah.
better education leading into better jobs, leading into better lifestyles. All of that becomes a ripple effect. And there are things that I think we're doing for various reasons. Some of it is mentality of where we've come from. We have a past unlike anyone else's. And so there are things about our culture that no one can relate to. And contrary to whether they believe the scars are still there or not, they are. We are still products of our environments that come from 400 years of slavery and not having access. No one wants to claim it, but it's fact. And
That's
so,
right.
with that being said, it doesn't change overnight. You don't do that to a people for 400 years and expect them to change in 50, because it ain't been but about 50 good years that things have kind of come around. And then we destroying that. And please don't take me down the DE&I road. We ain't ready for that one
Oh,
yet.
man.
But these are little things that tie back into why we had to do the things that we had to do. But once again, play into a bigger picture about why the culture is still suffering. Having a level playing field is all this culture has ever asked. After being
Right.
brought here
Right.
unwillingly
Right.
and then finally released, all we've ever asked for was a level playing field.
Yeah.
I watched a debate the other night about DE&I in particularly, and we can have a whole conversation on this at another date. But the mere fact that there is still this acknowledgement, number one, that it is simply about uneducated or unqualified people, be they black, brown, or otherwise, is just a horrible thing to even start with. But more importantly, to think that even with those who are qualified, that there's no need for a program like this. I watched two gentlemen simply say, we don't need anything like that. We're at a place now where everyone who is the best is given the best opportunities. Let me tell you how much of a crock that is. I'm a whole,
Woo!
I
It
get
almost
cuss
came
words
out.
around there. I told you sometimes it's just the right word. I'm gonna save mine though, because I got some other stuff I want to say. But let me tell you how much of a crock that is. As someone who maneuvers corporate America every day, and watch the good old boys clubs in full effect. Move around, pick and choose, pull people, post jobs that they know good and well they have no intentions of hiring for because you've already picked Jiffy Biffy, and the bottom line is you're going through the motions. For someone who knows the inside track of that, that burned me from the inside out. The only reason these programs exist is because that's what you're doing,
That's right.
is because if we didn't make you act right, you would not act right. And it shows when I see a group photo at any given time in LinkedIn of something I dare you to go on LinkedIn right now. Find a photo of an outing where some company went to dinner. Count the minorities that are at the dinner. How
Oh
can that
man.
be?
Oh
Go
man.
flip through your LinkedIn page right this moment and find company. How is it that ain't nobody on the sales team of a different race than Caucasians? How is this possible? These are that becomes the proof that there is more work to be done. I'm not. No one is ever asked for a handout. We've simply asked for a level playing field. And if you're going to play those games, then we need to have other things in place to counteract it. Because the Good Old Boys Club is in full effect. And let me tell you this,
It never died. It's
it
always
never
been in full.
died.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I've benefited from it. Why? Because I have friends in high places where I've been able to maneuver in that area. But most of us don't get that opportunity. So it is what it is, and these programs are needed because that still is the issue. And I said this a long time ago. This is not an issue of policy. This is an issue of the heart. This is an issue of the heart. If that's how you feel, and it's better for your friend to be awarded a job versus someone qualified 10x, it's an issue of the heart. And so policy can't change that. Policy can make you do the right thing, but it don't necessarily change how you feel about that. And then there are those who feel DE&I in and of itself is a racist thing. They feel that you're making and taking away from an opportunity by making someone less qualified be there. Oh, there's
But
a
that's
whole
not.
lot. Never
But
been that way.
yeah, that's not the case.
No.
It's not that the person is less qualified.
Yeah.
It's that this person is qualified for the job, but you don't recognize his qualifications because of
Because you got your
this.
buddy buddy program going on, and
Right, right.
you'd rather slide your boy in.
Right. And you know what, TC, you said you've benefited from it yourself
Uh-huh.
because you've had some friends
I've
in
had
high
friends
places.
in those
And,
places.
and, and I'm going to tell you something. The fact that you benefited from it because you have friends in high places is ludicrous to me.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm glad that many of us have had an opportunity to benefit from that, but we shouldn't have to be placed up. We shouldn't have to have friends in high places in order to achieve a certain position in any company. It should be
Correct.
based on my talent.
Merits.
Yeah, yeah, I'm talented enough for this job, and
Correct.
everybody knows it. But I got to depend on Steve
Yeah.
to
My
help
boy.
me. Yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
depend on him to get this job for me, man. And
Yeah.
that's just crazy, man. DE and I, affirmative action, all that stuff was put into place because we were constantly getting passed over for jobs,
Yeah.
for education. I mean, there was a time when you couldn't get in Yale and you couldn't get in Harvard. You couldn't get in an Ivy League school.
Right.
We had to go to an HBCU. The reason we have HBCUs is
Because there
because we
was an
couldn't get in
associated
their
school.
schools. Right.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
was
So,
not some grand idea. It was because
yeah.
he had no choice. All of this still plays back to what we talked about. You cannot create black generational wealth without education,
Yeah.
without access to education, without access to jobs that pay, that will provide a middle class, upper class lifestyle. You have to have access to those things in order to be able to. When we're talking about generational wealth, we're talking about wealth for tomorrow. My parents were so caught up paying the bills today that they couldn't talk about tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
You understand?
Yeah.
So that's about being able to bring yourself to a level to where your income surpasses day to day. And I
Right.
now have an opportunity to not only take care of today, but I can put money in places for tomorrow and then have an opportunity to move generational wealth down. These are the things that we as a community have to hold this country responsible for, as well as holding ourselves responsible to make sure that we're thinking about this. This
Yeah.
doesn't just happen. Don't just
Yeah.
happen. It's like a going on vacation. If you don't plan a vacation in January for July, Don't think in June you're gonna pop up and find some availability at the beach. It don't happen. Planning is how this
Yeah,
happens.
going back to this marriage thing, man. I also believe too that single parents experience more stress. I think they experience more issues of more mental and physical issues. Listen to this, man. One of the most important social changes that's unfolded in the United States over the past half century has been the decline of the institution of marriage. And here's some good numbers here, too. Decline especially steep among blacks. Listen to this. In 1960, roughly 74% of whites were married. And that rate dropped to 56% in 2008. But that's a big drop, but not compared to the plummeting marriage rate for blacks. In 1960, 61% of blacks were married. 61% were married in 1960. But by 2008, it was only 32% of blacks were married. And statistics says that we also get divorced more often and remarry less frequently than our first cousins on the other side of the tracks. And
Matt, what's our number one reason for divorce?
I remember you know what, when you study, all of these different people who study marriage, everybody has a different reason for the number one, but the top two reasons that I've seen from all of the books and seminars that I've been in, it's been money and communication. Believe it or not, money. And people are not divorcing because they don't have enough money. They're divorcing because they don't know how to manage the money.
Gotcha.
And that's the number one for a lot of people, man. That's crazy. But this guy's saying, he's saying that scholars and public observers worry because, after all, marriage has historically provided many benefits. You talked about this earlier. Individuals who are married enjoy better physical and mental health. They have more social ties. They have higher household incomes. They accumulate more wealth. Raise children who do better in terms of health and social outcomes than the children of unmarried parents. And because the decline of marriage has been so sharp among blacks, this group has received a lot of scrutiny. And he goes on to say that there are some analysts that argue that black women in particular place no value on marriage. I'm sorry, he said some analysts argue that black women in particular place little value on marriage, but much evidence contradicts that argument and suggests instead, listen to this, that social deprivations make it hard for black women to find suitable partners. Social deprivation makes it hard. And all I'm saying, man, is brothers, we got to step our game up.
Yeah.
You gotta educate yourself, and even if you don't, and I'm not talking about where you got to go to college and get a degree, but man,
a lot of ways to get educated.
Yeah, a lot of ways to get educated, man. There's some brothers out here that has no degree and they're making six figures.
Yeah.
And we just got to do a better job. I mean, because when you're talking about household income, you have more social ties, accumulate more wealth, raise children. Who do better in terms of health and social outcome, that's really an indictment for me, I think, on men, on us brothers.
Yeah.
Because so many of our sisters have been left by themselves to raise children. I look at my own wife. When I met my wife, she had a 15-year-old daughter, and she was doing it by herself.
Yeah.
Working at a couple of jobs, starting several different types of businesses so that she could provide for her child. And but marriage is important because from an economic standpoint, it could really be a blessing in our lives. But you know what, TC? How about this right here? Let me switch it up. Let me switch this up. Yesterday we talked about this right here. We said that, where did this thing come from where when you turn 18, you got to get out? Why do we do
Right.
this here?
That's
At
and
18, you got to get out of my house.
here's the thing though. Do we know for sure that that's a us thing? Do
We
my
don't.
cousins do that? I don't know. Do my cousins do that? I don't know. I don't know. We might need to do a little survey. My Caucasian cousins that are out there, do y'all put your kids out when they turn 18? Like
18.
you 18, you is
Gotta go.
out of here.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we were saying how it can absolutely stipend an individual's growth. That's kind of the same thing about having the ability to get yourself together and get yourself in a place to where you can truly take care of yourself versus the simple age makes you an adult and so therefore you need to be on your own. I think again, I don't know if my cousins do that at the rate we do, but it is something that I have seen for many years, and always swore not to do, and I haven't because I see it as a way of setting a person back, especially because we mature at different ages. Simply saying someone is 18 doesn't mean they're an adult. Doesn't mean, and then you may have one at 18 that's ready to go. I was that one at 18, 19. I was like, yo, I'm out. I'm off to the Air Force, jumped in a car, drove California by myself the whole 9 yards. I was that guy though. Whereas some of my other siblings stuck around for a minute, you know what I'm saying? But it's the households where it is mandated that you got to figure it out and get on up out of here that are concerning to me. And once again, I think that behavior transitions over, and then before you know it, you got generationally a pattern that continues to do that, which doesn't necessarily put you in the best position to get out there into this cold, cold world. You having to figure it out at 18. Come on, man, you still a baby.
Yeah.
You
You
still
you only
drawing on your
grown.
years.
You're only an adult by law.
That's it.
You,
You
you,
don't
you can go
need
to the
that,
you can go to the military and you can go to prison.
and you still can't drink yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah,
You can't even buy cigarettes.
can you come on now? I don't know. I think that's a us thing, though. I think think it's a us thing. I don't know. I don't know. But no, these are things that, like I said, if we're not looking at them and discussing them in our households, maybe it's time that we do. We're trying to always better ourselves, not only as an individual, but we should be trying to better ourselves as a collective body of people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I heard somebody say it was this Asian guy. He was a businessman, and someone challenged him and said, you don't care about us. There was a conversation where someone challenged the fact that he didn't care about another ethnicity. And I never forget that his answer was, no, that's not true. I just care about my people more. I care about you. I, he said, I absolutely care about you. I just care about my own people more. And I thought that there is nothing wrong with that. That's just like
Yeah.
you going out and having to regulate some children in the street. You care about the kids that live on the block, but I care about my kids a little more because they're mine. So there's nothing wrong with taking that position. And I think that this conversation we're having about building Black generational wealth and what are we doing in our own community is a worthy conversation because it's something that we should want to do better, be better, stand stronger on our own. And if there are some weaknesses, we should want to look at how we make those things better, not only for us individually, but collectively because that's how every other group does it. Every other group does it that way. And for some reason, we have gotten, I don't want to say lost, but we've taken a different path on that. And it is disturbing when you look at the statistics and you look at the data and then you look at just the state of the union. It don't take much to just ride around your city and see this and wonder, can we do better? And maybe it starts with us individually, maybe it's a collective thing, but if nothing else, knowledge is power when it is put to use. And so hopefully this is knowledge that can be used in a manner that will make us all reflect individually and say, I can go about that in a different way. I can look at that from a different perspective and do some things in my own household that will make my situation better. And hopefully, we then perpetuate that as people go out and grow and mature and repeat those good things in their own households. Because all we're doing is taking the things that we've learned from our parents' household and bringing them into our households. And we're either deciding to continue to do what we've seen, or we're making a decision to do something different. So
Yeah.
hopefully here's an opportunity for us to do something different if you're not already doing it.
Yeah, and not everything we saw in our parents' home was right, you know.
Right. And that's just being honest.
I think some of our parents had to do what they had to do.
Absolutely.
But
Did the best they could with what they had.
yeah, but again, we took that and we applied it to our household as well, and I think
Right.
a different time, you know.
Yeah. Different time.
It's a different time.
And you know what? And better times. Think
Better
about
time, yeah.
absolutely. You think about what our parents did, whatever it was. We are still in a much better time. As much as we complain rightfully about a lot of the stuff that's not right, we're still in a much better time. I used to always say, contrary to how you feel about today, you are standing on the shoulders of giants.
That's
You
right.
you are
Absolutely.
living your relatives'
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah, you are.
Your ancestors, you are living their dreams. They
Yeah.
can't fathom what you're capable of doing right now. You just pause and think about your slavery ancestors and what they dreamed of.
Yeah.
You're beyond that
Yeah.
100 times. And we ain't gotta go that far back. You can take it back 1 or 2 generations. You are your ancestors' dreams
Yeah.
on your worst day. Okay?
Yeah.
So when we think about how far we've come, that's reason not to bash yourself, but let's not be fooled. When we look at the grand scheme of things, we still got some work to do.
Yeah.
We're still sitting on the bottom of the totem pole as it pertains to not only living a good life now, but ensuring that our children's children's children live a good life. And some of it is because we're just so glad that we can do what we do right now. We ain't really thinking about tomorrow. And that's what this is all about. Generational wealth says, I'm thinking beyond myself. And I want to make sure that generations to come are equally set for success. It's a mindset.
Do you think we have just settled for, you know, I heard somebody say, once we were able to sit in the front of the bus or anywhere we wanted to, once we were able to walk through the front door of the movie theater, once we were able to walk through the front door of a restaurant and sit anywhere we wanted to sit, we became satisfied with just that. We were good.
I think in some cases.
Yeah.
Here's what I think also. I think in some of those situations, our ancestors had dreamt as big as they could dream. See, they had dreamt as big as they could dream. Oh my God, I can come into a restaurant of any type, sit down, order a meal, nobody harasses me, nobody makes me degraded whatsoever. That was their biggest dream. They didn't think about, well, hell, you can own the restaurant.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think in some cases, our ancestors, they had dreamt as big as they could dream, which is more reasons why it's up to us to dream bigger and inspire our children to dream even bigger than us. But to know first and foremost that you're living your ancestors' dreams every day that you wake up in your mediocre world, that there's something to be said about that. Therefore, we owe it not only to them, but to the generations in front of us to set them up for success and to make it easier for them, because that's what we all want to do. Every parent wants their child to do better than they did.
Yeah, man. That mediocrity, man, is I think it's a killer, man, for many of our people, man. I think we've just settled for, like my mom would say, you settling for a C. and you
Right.
know you're capable of getting an A,
A
but you,
material
yeah,
settling for C's.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Because
just
C's.
want to do just enough to get by,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that should be a spirit of excellency, man. And I think we kind of missed that, and I think it's been kind of handed down as well, man. Once we were able to get a pair of black shoes and a pair of brown shoes, and a couple of suits, we
And
were
somebody
good.
let us buy a Cadillac, we was wrapped, huh?
Hey, we talked about that, TC, about parking
Yeah.
a Mercedes in front of an apartment complex.
There you go.
Yeah,
Come on now.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Because
yeah, you should.
we like shiny things, man. You know what? And again, man, to the listening audience and those of you who are listening and looking, and those of you who are probably going to see this later on, I don't want you to think that we're bashing
Yeah.
African
Not
American
bad.
people, but I think you have to speak truth.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, there are a lot of us that are doing an outstanding job.
No question.
I'm talking about they doing the doggone thing.
They live in the
They're
dream.
they're living the dream.
They're
They're
living the
raising
dream.
their children. They're loving their
dream.
wives.
Yes, sir.
That financially, man, they're stable, man. They are doing the doggone thing. But there's still so many of us
Yeah.
that are just stinking up the place, man.
Yeah.
It's stinking up. Let me ask you something. Here's a good question. Have you ever seen a white ghetto? Have you
If
have you
so, it ain't gonna be in this country.
have you ever seen some white projects, housing projects?
No, can't say I have. But
Then
I think that they started out that way. I think the the word ghetto had something to do in New York
right,
with groups of people. I can't remember
it
what
did.
groups of people. Maybe Jewish,
It
maybe
did.
some other different. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Right? Weren't those
Right.
called ghettos back then? Yeah.
But
But I
now
ain't seen them.
housing projects. Now this is what I was told. I didn't read this. I was told this though. I was told that housing projects initially were for white folks.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
But TC, but even if that's the truth, then they are no longer there, and we are there. So what did they do
To get
to
out.
get out
Right.
that we can't also do? We might have to do more of it,
Yeah.
but what is it that what do we need to do to get out of it as well? Because we got in there and we just sat down.
Yeah.
And then hold on, TC, and then brag about it.
Yeah.
We throwing up signs for our hood. Yeah, Thomas and Hall. You know what I'm saying? West 15th and 99th Street.
Don't own nothing. Don't own nothing. Talking about my block. My what?
Cause listen, with gentrification taking place in a whole lot of these places,
Yeah.
when they come through with the bulldozers, ain't nobody throwing up signs.
Nope. No signs to throw.
You got to get out.
Yeah. Everybody gotta go.
You got to get
No,
out.
I think it goes back to each of those groups simply stuck together. And here is the key to all of it. When we talk about family units, like it or not, the presence of a male keeping the glue
Yep.
in a family is essential. And in every one of those situations that you're talking about, they came out as a unit. The women didn't come out and leave the men. The men
Wow.
didn't come out and leave the women. They
Yeah.
came out as a unit. Now, there's
Yeah.
a whole lot behind why we didn't come out as a unit. It's a
Yeah.
whole nother show.
Yeah, it is.
But the simple, because a lot of that was about welfare that was being given to women that displaced men. So there's a whole lot of controversy around that because everybody knew what the ingredient was to get out. The ingredient was a complete family, whole, intact. Everybody all of a sudden rises together, father and mother figure, head of household structure. We move out, we move together, we become middle class. There's a story, and I always love hearing about this. We all remember some of the early black television shows, specifically Good Times. Good Times was a show that, in a lot of people back in them days, was probably some of the first black people had even seen on TV when you start thinking about some of those early sitcoms. But there was a lot going on behind the scenes of that show. Specifically, I think her name is Esther. It was Esther
Esther
Rose.
Roll. Esther Roll.
Esther Rowe refused to allow that show to air without a husband figure in the
Right.
household. There was reasons behind it. They knew then what the power was for coming up and out of. We're moving on up, the good
Yeah.
time, right? So Jefferson's now moved on up. That was a complete unit of people who did that. And so her thing was she would not, because it was written to be a single woman. And she said, absolutely not. And then they wrote him in. So all of that took place to show a male figure in the household and the strength that came with having a father figure. Not only that, that was the few people who did come up out of that, they came out as a family. And so if you want to stop a group of people from progressing, you take that individual out of the equation by any means necessary. That's a whole nother show in and of itself. But that's what's happened. And when we lose that male figure, and that male figure becomes a sperm donor and simply moves from apartment to apartment to apartment, then all of a sudden you no longer have an actual tight unit to move things through. And unfortunately, we've glorified that. When we become sperm donors of 3 or 4 different children, as long as if I just show up every now and then, oh Lord, if
Yeah.
I pay a little child support, woo, I done my thing. You have not.
Yeah.
You still left 3 broken households. Is what you've done. Yes, you pay child support. Yes, you come get them every now and then. But that's 3 broken households. Because if you talk to any of those children, they will tell you that I still miss my dad. Why? Because even if he was doing what everybody's telling him is the right thing to do, you are simply bouncing between 3 households, paying some child support, popping up, seeing Johnny every now and then. We all
Yeah.
know that don't do it.
Yeah.
You need a
Yeah.
full-time father figure if you
Right.
want to have some full-time male things injected into you.
Right.
So we've been hoodwinked into believing that that is still a suitable way of doing things. And guess what? It is what it is. But there's a better way. And the better way is still the way in which we as a group of people have fallen off further than anyone, with a marriage rate of 34% and a median household income of 55,000, the lowest in the nation. We can say whatever we want, but the numbers don't lie. So the
Right.
question becomes, with this information, what are we going to do with it? We going to keep
Right.
doing what we're doing? We going to keep driving Mercedes-Benz and parking them in front of apartment buildings with no garage to put them in because we want some bling bling and shine shine? Or are our children's lives, future lives, bigger than our current wants? And the fact that we're willing to, number one, govern ourselves as men and not lay down with anybody unprotected, and begin to think about my seed is my future. I think
Right.
that's another problem. We don't view this thing properly. Your seed is your future. We all want a brighter future. I want somebody that's going to do better than me. And I'm
Yeah.
not talking about we have accidents, we have mistakes, things happen. That ain't what I'm talking about. But if you
Yeah,
run
that's
around
that's
here
part of
with
your
four-
legacy, man.
Come on, man. But if you run around here with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids, you might want real things back in. And my point is still valid. You is still a much better situation when we put some thought into that, who we're having children with, and you should be wanting to think about this covenant called marriage, because
Right.
it is still the thing that allows us to propel these unions further than anything else, and to bring us as a people to another level. Easier
Yeah.
said than done. Easier
Yeah.
said than done.
Yeah, because you know what, the truth of the matter, this is just being 100. Our first cousins, when they get married, they do think economically. When we get married, we thinking set. Well, I'm not gonna say that for all of us, but oftentimes it's a sexual thing, and we're not thinking about it. Can be, and it's a love thing too, though. It's a love thing. I love him and I love her, and I want to spend the rest of my life with him or her. But we're not thinking about the other part. Can I build with this person?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Really have a future.
Do we have a future?
Yeah.
Am I gonna wind up being in an apartment complex with this guy
Yeah.
or this woman, or are we gonna spend the next 30, 40 years on Section 8?
Yeah.
Will we ever own some property? Oh, we're
Do
gonna
we
all
understand? Do we understand that it is about ownership and not
it
renting
ownership.
forever?
Yeah, yeah.
So
What?
that light ain't came on for a lot
Yeah.
of
What
people.
kind of kids are we gonna raise?
Yeah,
You know, and I think our first cousins, I think they have done a better job, and it's because, man, it's
we've been
really,
taught that for a long time, bro. Long time,
man. Listen, man.
long time.
We got broken. We got broken,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
We really did. We got broken, and for 400 years, man, we've
yeah.
been really trying to mend and fix these broken pieces. And some of us have learned the lesson, and they've
Some
grown.
have not.
Some of us are still broken, and it really has a lot to do. We can go 400 years back,
Yeah,
and some of the stuff that happened 400 years ago, we're still dealing with it today. The effects of
today.
it, the
Yeah,
effects of it. Yeah,
yeah,
we are. It just looks a little different than it ain't slavery, but it
yeah.
is.
And no one wants to deal with that, but it is still such a relevant part of our DNA. It,
Yeah,
it, it really is. And anyone who would have encountered it would be in the same boat.
yeah,
Um, you'd be in the same boat or worse. One thing about us is we're resilient. I always tell my kids that anyone, any African American who is in existence today, you're a winner.
you
You're a
better
winner
know it.
because you are DNA of good stock.
That's right.
That means that Chase, I took my mom to the African American Museum in DC and we just had spiritual moments in all these rooms. But when you look at slave ships, hundreds of people stacked like cargo, and you begin to think about, I'm a descendant of some slave. That means my relatives somewhere down the line was on one of them ships. And guess what? He didn't die. He didn't
Yeah,
jump overboard. He made
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Him, a male and a female made it
yeah,
to dry land,
yeah,
existed and procreated, and their seeds procreated, and their
yeah,
seeds procreated. And for 400 years, those seeds made it. They didn't get hung, they didn't get killed, they didn't get beat to death. They made it. And through that history, ultimately, you and I are here. We good stuff.
yeah.
We are the DNA that made it.
That's right.
Any
Right.
African American that is standing today, you come from the best that there was.
Yeah.
These were the survivors.
Right on.
And so if you think about who you are, it's like anything else. Do you really know who you are? If you knew who you were, would you do things differently? I think about that often. I think about,
Yeah.
again, the fact that we are living our ancestors' dreams. I think about the shoulders that I'm standing on. And I think about if we were to pull this thing all the way back to the worst time in our existence, because it was just a time. We were before that. We always get told this is where it started. There was a time before that. And the simple fact of the matter is, you are of good DNA, you are of good stock, and therefore we should always want better
Yeah.
because we come from the best that there was.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a great message, TC, and I think that's something, man, that we ought to be sharing with every young brother and sister that we come into contact with,
Yeah,
and instead of looking at them and pointing our finger at them and telling them you're sorry, you're
yeah.
stupid, you know what I mean? I think we should tell them, man, hey,
Go
man,
for
you come from
greatness,
some
man.
good stuff.
Good
Listen,
stuff.
I've been driving Uber for 3 weeks now.
Yeah,
And every time I get a young brother in the back seat of that car, I encourage him the entire ride.
nice.
I've had the opportunity to pick up just this week one kid, 27 years old. I picked him up he was interviewing at a warehouse.
Mm,
And he said, I lost my job 2 weeks ago and I gotta get another job, man. I can't go, another 2 weeks without a check. I got a child and I gotta make it happen for for his baby. And he said that he's had some legal issues.
mm,
He got his car repossessed because he was in a wreck. He couldn't afford to get it fixed and he still owed on it, didn't have any insurance. So he owes. And so, you know, I told him, I say, listen, I mean, he was really down in the dumps. And I told him, I say, listen, before he got out of the car, I said, I want you to know something. I said, you're great. You're awesome. You're a king. And brother, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. And of course we did have prayer. But my point is, I wanted to make sure that I encourage him to help him to see himself bigger than what he sees himself.
Absolutely. It changes
and
everything.
and that was important. And I'm looking in my rear view mirror. I'm driving. I'm looking in my rear view mirror at him, and every time I said, "You're great. You're awesome. You're intelligent. You're smart," his smile just got bigger and
He got
bigger.
taller, didn't he?
Yeah, and
He got in the car 5'5" and
yeah,
5'10".
and he was like, "Sir, thank you so much." And before we got out of the car, he said it again, "Sir, thank you so much. I appreciate the encouragement, and I heard every word that you said." I drop him off. I go get another kid, same age, 27 years old. This kid, I'm dropping him off at college, on a college campus.
Wow.
I'm dropping him off. But I'm dropping him off on a college campus, but he's struggling because his mom and dad didn't play a role in his development. They were really kind of non-existent. They just left him out here on the streets. And so somehow, some way, he had the fortitude to say, you know what? I'm bigger than this. I'm going to college. And so, man, I encouraged him as well. The same thing. Hey, man, you're great. I'm proud of you. You are doing the right thing. If you need some assistance, you need some encouragement, call me. Put my number in your phone. You call me. And then before he got out of the car, same thing. Sir, thank you so very much. I heard every word you said. And so I'm saying all of that to say this here. I think what you said earlier is what we need to do a better job of making sure that the ones that we come into contact with, that we encourage them, man.
Yeah.
Because I think I think we do a real good job of pointing out faults. And they're already beat up. They're already struggling.
Yeah.
Man, pull somebody to the side, man, and tell one of these youngsters, man, that he's a great man, that he comes from great stock.
Great stuff, man.
And
you can't never take
yeah.
that away from you. Great
And
stuff.
and I appreciate you saying that, TC. And my experiences this week with these two young guys, man, was a blessing to me. And so what I'm gonna do, I'm on a mission now. Every time I come into contact with one of them, I'm gonna tell them that they're great. I'm gonna tell them that they're awesome. I'm gonna tell them that they're smart. Yeah, because we need that. We need that.
No
So that self-esteem has been beat down, man.
And
Just
all
beat
it
down.
takes is powerful words can just
Yeah.
change their entire lives.
Yeah.
And that, that's basically what we do here is try and basically empower through words and the truth,
Yeah.
dealing with the facts of the matter, not judging. Again, we ain't here to judge it. We just here to talk about
Yeah.
it. So it's
Yeah.
it's definitely an honor and a blessing to be able to do that on a platform like this as well as live and in person. And so you double dipping in all the good stuff this week.
Yeah.
The ability to talk to somebody firsthand. But what a great way to kind of wrap this up, as we think about all the amazing things that we have contributed to this nation as a community, and the ability to individually now still sow into people of
Yeah.
all ethnicities. This ain't a black thing. This is just
Yeah.
a being able to sow powerful words into people
Right.
is a bigger thing than you. And out of that, there are many blessings that come back to you on the back end. So
Yeah.
I encourage anyone to continue to encourage others and let them know you too come from good stock. Like I said, we are
Yeah.
past. Every ethnicity has a story, have a great story of how they got here to this country, and you hear them talking about the old country. All of us have a story.
Yes.
And with that, there are great people that have come before you. You are standing on the shoulders of giants. They made great sacrifices for you to be here. And if you're living the dream already, great. Be thankful and grateful that those people put those things in place for you. And where you're basically ahead of the game, we gonna do our very best to be part of it.
Man.
Okay?
Man, that's
what it's all
crazy.
about.
That's
Yeah.
crazy, man. I'm just sitting here thinking about this, man. As you're saying, we're standing on the shoulders of some giants,
Oh
and I'm
man.
think and I'm thinking about how these people fought and gave their life. Not,
Everything.
you know what? And they weren't even thinking about themselves. They were
Yeah.
thinking about the
Always the
future.
future.
I was thinking
Always
about
the
the
future.
future, man.
Yeah.
Not for
It's the only
themselves.
way. It's the only way you could do those things.
Selfless.
Think about those who simply died to vote. Every time I go to a voting booth, I think, would I lay down my life to go in here today? I don't
Yeah.
know if I could do that.
Right.
We had hundreds, thousands of people who knew simply showing up at the ballots could cost you your life. And they went.
Yeah.
And they went.
Yeah.
And some laid their lives down
Yeah. They did.
just because,
Yeah.
knowing that if they did not, then we would never have an opportunity.
Right.
There are very few things many of us would lay our lives down for right now. You come from good stock. You
Unless
come
it
from
benefited. Unless it
come on,
benefited us.
you. There you go.
Yeah.
You're talking even we ain't got to go back that far, bro. The
Yeah.
60s was about people fighting for you and me right now.
That's right. That's right.
How many of us went around here and who ready to get into a non-violent movement?
Yeah.
Get hit in the head with bricks and rocks and get up and keep moving and not retaliate. I
Or go,
don't know
or, or,
nobody.
or go into a restaurant and sit at the counter while
And
somebody
let
pour
them slap
milk on
you
top of
down.
your head
Come on
and
now.
food in your face and
Come on.
spit on you and burn you
Come
with
on.
cigarette butts, man.
And you sit still because you're thinking about the future.
Future.
It ain't about me. Today, I'm
Wow.
not going to get to have this sandwich. But in 20, 30, 40 years, my great nieces, my nephews will be able to walk in here. As a matter of fact, they're going to own the damn
Own
thing.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Right.
understand? So
Yeah.
it's a different mindset. And when we talk
Wow.
about this generational anything, wealth, whatever you want to put it, it's bigger than you. And it ain't about right now. This is
Yeah.
about the future.
Man.
It'll make you sit back and think because we live in a what I want right now, give me society. And very few things in our lives are about anybody other than us.
Yeah.
And they definitely ain't about two generations in front of us.
No,
Not
man,
at all.
you know what? The ability to even be able to create wealth
Yes.
is because of what someone else did
Already has
generations
done.
ago. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
living in neighborhoods that they couldn't live in because there was redlining that said,
yeah.
you'll never get a loan to go over there because of where you currently live.
Right.
Somebody paid the price for you to even be in the house you in right now.
Absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
about the house I live in. There was a time where I couldn't live here. I could have the money and couldn't live here.
Yeah,
We ain't talking about 100 years ago.
that's
My
right.
parents talked to me about having to drive to a different city to get a loan for the house that they bought because the city we was in, no black people could get a loan for a house. That's my mom and dad telling me that. Come on now. So we've come a long way. It ain't been that long ago. And here's the other thing. You talking about people who still exist, who was sitting on the other side of the desk
That's
saying
right.
no. Okay? Don't get it twisted. And you're
Yeah,
talking about people who still exist, who sat on the other side of the desk and said no, and raised kids
that's right.
who think that way, even if they don't talk that way. Why? Because
That's
I was
right.
raised by the
That's
person
right.
who sat on the other side of the desk and told your mama and daddy no.
Yeah,
That's why we need DE and I. That's why we need to understand this thing is bigger than me and you. And that's why this is an issue of the heart, not policies. You gotta want to do better.
yeah,
You gotta want people to change on the inside. Until people change on the inside, it don't matter what we say. And all we got is policies. Because if I can't make you by policy, you damn sure ain't gonna do the right thing because your heart ain't right.
yeah,
So that's what we're up against, and I would like to further these conversations this month. Not only these conversations, but to also bring light to those who have made a difference. You
yeah.
know, this is a
It's
month.
Black History Month, man.
There you go. All that should be, but it's Black History Year. Although we're gonna play Black History Month. But
Yeah,
I really want to make sure that we highlight some folks that are outside the norm. I think as a whole we're going to hear about the typical people,
Yeah.
but let's really try and focus on some unique things that we've contributed as an African American culture to the United States this month. I think that
Yeah.
would be really good for us. Here we're talking about generational wealth, well-worthy conversation, but let's look at other things that we also can bring back into the organization or the culture that we don't always get a chance to highlight. So I think we
Right,
have a great
right,
opportunity
right,
this month to
right.
talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I think a good takeaway for those who are listening and those who are going to go back and check this podcast out. Here's a challenge for you. Why don't you get together with some of your friends and why don't y'all sit down, have a meeting, throw some business ideas out there on the table. You just never know what may come out of that.
Yeah,
That's a good way of building some generational wealth. Because all of
absolutely.
us we're some creative people, and
Right.
get together with some friends of yours. Call them and say, "Hey, let's meet up and have coffee," and y'all start throwing some business ideas out there.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, I just called a guy the other day, and he said to me, "Hey, man, let's go have some coffee and throw some stuff out on the table, man, and let's see what we come out with." And
Boom.
I'm open for that. I
Yep.
tried TC. You know what? I tried this a few years ago. I called about 7, 8 people, and we met at Keller Williams. My wife was a real estate agent for Keller Williams at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
we met in the conference room, and we were talking. We only had one meeting, and it fizzed out. And let me tell you why I believe. And some of them may be watching. Somebody may be watching it right now, or they may go back and see this podcast. But I believe that we only had one meeting because everybody was concerned about who's going to be the CEO.
Oh Lord. Always too many chiefs and no Indian.
Yeah,
Okay.
who's going to
Yeah,
be the CEO?
I'm not surprised.
You know,
Not
and it was just, in hearts were looking around the table. Well, he can't be the CEO, or she can't be the CEO. I'm smarter than him, or I'm more
right.
educated, and and one meeting, man, and it fizzed out, and it was
Wow.
some really, really intelligent people sitting at the table, but they were too smart. We were too smart for our
For your
own
own
good.
good. Hmm.
Yeah, for our own good.
It happens. It
Yeah,
sure can.
yeah.
Well, I tell you what, again,
But you and
when
I,
you know better, you
TC,
do better.
you and I need
Yeah,
to do that same thing.
absolutely.
This podcast is awesome,
Yeah,
and it's gonna blow up.
I'm with you,
It's
bro.
gonna it's gonna blow up,
I ain't
man.
doing it for no other reason, and
But
I'm willing to
hey,
take my
hey,
time and watch it
but
happen.
we have too much experience at some other things, man, that we should
Yeah,
be throwing out on the table. Because we can have multiple businesses. Podcast can be one, but we can do
I'm
something
with
else
it.
too, though, man.
In due
Yeah.
time. In due time.
Woo! In due time. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to thank everybody. I've got some great looker ons here. Of course, our number one fan, Anita, always out here keeping the conversation going strong.
She sure is,
But
isn't she?
want to say hey to Tyra and my boy Vincent out on the West Coast. Appreciate you popping
All
in as
right, all
well.
right, all right.
And my son Blake back there in the OH10, my cousin Keedron. We got a lot of folks jumping in here. I just want y'all to know I really appreciate y'all. And I know
Wow.
I don't always get a chance to talk to you. It's good to know that you're watching. Hopefully you're
Awesome.
enjoying this content. Share it. Tell us that you like and what's going on. Shoot us some hearts and whatever else we need to do out there. Matt and I really love sharing what we've been given. And, we ain't here to judge it. As I say all the time, we're just here to talk about it. So
Yeah.
it is something that is a labor of love for us. Hopefully, you're getting some good nuggets out of this, or Uncle T's nuggets,
Right
and
on.
that we're really making a difference in people's lives, and that's really what this is all about. Just trying to keep it a buck, and at the same time, learning from people. This is why I really love to make this a little bit more interactive. But at the end of the day, Matt and I don't know it all. Don't even profess to. But
Yeah.
we're here to learn along with you. So it's all good. That's for sure. Just getting started. So we're gonna be doing some other really good stuff. Hey, It's Black History Month.
Yeah.
Love to hear from anybody about any things that you'd like to talk about that highlight the wonderful contributions of Black Americans. We've done a lot of stuff, y'all. And guess what? We're going to have some real conversation this month. Might not feel good to some of y'all, but I ain't one to play pussyfoot. So I'm going to talk about it for real, for real. We're going to
Yeah.
get into some of the things. We're going to get into the good, bad, and the ugly.
Oh
Just be
yeah.
prepared for that. So that's what this month is all about, just to highlight it. But we're gonna talk about it and hopefully always come out of it with some optimistic viewpoint of it.
Yeah.
It might sound bad, but at the end of the day, I want us to know that we can always do better, right?
Yeah.
And as I say, my new quote for the show is, be good or either be good at it, whatever
Be
you want to
good
do.
or be
So
good at it.
it's all
Woo!
good. It's all
Like
good.
that one, boy.
Yes, sir. Be good
Be
or be
good or
good
be
at it.
good at it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
So, Uncle TC,
Yes, sir.
man, you shared a lot with us today. You
Yeah.
really did. You educated us. But I got to ask you this, man. Give it to us real quick. Give me, when it comes to Black generational wealth,
Yeah.
give us one thing that we can do individually or collectively to generate wealth. One thing, just one thing.
I would say, learn to pay yourself.
Oh,
Pay yourself.
explain that.
You have a job, and no matter what it is you make, until you get to a place in life to where you can, I call it a place to where you can breathe. When your income is what I call, you're at a place to where you can breathe. That means you pay all your bills, everything, and you still got $2,000, $3,000 left in your bank account, and life goes on until you get paid again. Until you get to that point where it's easy not to pay yourself, I want you to start paying yourself 10%. Paying yourself 10%. I don't care what kind of job you got. I don't care what you do. You need to take and look at what you bring home and take 10% and put that away. That is the beginning of at least having something to generate wealth. The problem is most of us are in a day-to-day, paycheck by paycheck environment. All of the money is already spent before I get it. And in most cases, when I look at what you got lined out down there, you ain't on the payee list. The light bill, the gas,
Wow.
where my, I ain't on it.
Wow.
So that means I'm gonna give it all away and turn around and pray for the next check. Pay yourself. And then when you get a little nest egg over there, we can begin talking about the next levels. Ain't no need in talking about the stock market. Ain't no need in talking about investing in property. Ain't no need me wasting my time with that till you got some money. And if you learn to pay yourself early in life, you will find ways of then taking 500 and flipping it to 1,000, taking 1,000 and turning it into 1,500, taking 1,500 and turning it into 3,000. But you first got to have a nest egg to do it. And until you pay yourself, everybody gets paid except you. So, number one thing,
Wow.
10% of what you bring home, pay yourself.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Pay
Good
yourself.
stuff.
Yeah.
Got a list of things to pay, and you are
Make sure
nowhere
you're
on the
on it.
list.
That's
Wow.
right. When I look at your list of what you finna pay this 2 weeks, I bet you ain't on there.
Wow.
On the top of it, it should say me,
Yeah.
me, me,
Wow.
me. Pay
That's
me.
good stuff, man.
Yeah, me wouldn't made it. Me ought to get a cut. Me can't get a cut. Me made all the money. Me can't get a cut. Where me's cut?
Woo, boy. Hey, boy. Now I'm gonna tell you
That's
something.
me.
Now, that's how you end the show right there, boy. That was good, TC. That
That's
was
me.
good. I was good.
Nita
Oh
done
boy.
already got you. She said, Matt, I need 10%. TC says so.
Okay.
Nita, that ain't
Man.
me. Nita, you got a me, and he got a me.
And
Y'all
he got
both
it.
me.
Yeah, that's
Y'all
right.
me's.
That's
Longevity
right.
me's. Well, I guess if you married, let me rephrase it. When you married, it's the
We
collar
got a
to
meet.
say we. It's
We,
a we.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
we. But if you're
yeah.
single, you ought to have a me collar. So, yeah.
That's right.
100% to me or we.
Me or we. Man, that was really, really good, TC. That was good, man. That's good stuff.
Oh,
Listen, listen, listen.
yeah.
We ain't calling you Uncle T for nothing, man.
Come on now. I might know
Yeah.
just a little bit, just a little bit. I done been around this sun a few times.
Yeah.
Just a few. I got the burn marks on my butt. I've been around the
Yes,
sun a few
sir.
times.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Good
Oh, this has
stuff,
been
man.
good, been good, good stuff. Well, look here, man. We gonna keep this thing moving. Thank you all so very much for hanging out with us today. Looking forward to next Thursday. Don't see any reason at the moment why that won't work.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys hanging in there when we do pull a day back and forth. You know, we be over here doing real life, y'all. You know, real
Yeah.
life, and so every now and then we gotta run a rerun, but it's all good. I'm gonna bring it
Yep.
right back as soon as possible. So just
Yep.
know that we committed. We committed to the game here. So appreciate you guys so very much for hanging in there. And again, please, please, please shoot me any kind of comments, thoughts that you have for Black History Month. I really want this to be special for us. And I'm not trying to come up with all the things that, you know, we should talk about. I would really love to hear from our listening audience. Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, any final thoughts?
Man, no, I think this has been a great show today, man.
Yeah. Good
Great
stuff.
show. Lot of information, man.
Cool.
Inspiring.
Inspired. We like
Inspiring. Inspiring.
Dropped a
And-
couple of TC nuggets.
Yes, you did.
So-
Yes, you did.
We in there. There you go.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
Pay
did.
me. Pay me.
Pay me. Yeah,
Pay me.
yeah, yeah. Don't have a list of things you got to pay without,
That's right.
and your name is not on the. Hold on,
On
at the top of the list.
At
yeah.
the top of the list. I'm
Yeah.
serious.
Because after all, as you said, I
made
worked
it.
for it. Yeah, me made it.
Me,
yeah.
me made it.
Yeah, me got up in the morning. Me had a headache. Me didn't
you
feel
go.
like going, but me went in and did it. You know.
Listen, hey,
Yeah.
me made it. Let's go. All
Yeah.
good. All right, sir. Well, again, thank you, Matt. Love you, boy, as usual.
Love you too, man.
We're
Yeah.
gonna wrap this one up.
Yes,
and,
sir.
Looking forward to talking to y'all next Thursday. Right back here, the same place, same bat channel, all that other good stuff. Y'all have an absolutely amazing week, amazing weekend, and again, a lot of crazy weather out there, y'all. Y'all be
Oh, yeah.
mindful. Yeah, because I mean, you already see it over there, bro. It's one
Oh, yeah.
thing to the next. Y'all be careful
Yeah.
out there. Pay attention to the weather. We in some crazy times right now.
Yeah,
For
we
sure.
are.
For
Yes,
sure.
sir.
All right, man. Much love.